For this adventure in Gran Turismo, we're going to try and complete the game using only economy tyres. Now, usually when you purchase a car, they at least come with sports tyres or better. But for the whopping price of 0 credits, you can install economy tyres on your car. Why are they so cheap? Well, because they're bad. Really bad. And this right here is the path I had planned to take me to victory. Planning it out, I thought this run would be challenging, but plausible. Oh, past me, you silly naive fool. With no prior testing, starting off, I was a bit worried about how these tyres would handle. So for my starting car, I looked for something lightweight, low power, and 4-wheel drive, like this little Daihatsu. So after purchasing it, the first upgrade was downgrading the tyres. And after that, we looked at adding a little bit more power through the addition of a racing intercooler. And on top of that, a nice and cheap racing computer chip. Just so we'd be competitive and removing even more weight. With all these upgrades complete, it was finally time to head over to the beginner events, into the Sunday Cup, to see how our first race car holds up. It's not looking good. It's telling us it's a 200-point event, meaning, balanced against our car, that's as hard as it gets. And it becomes pretty apparent we're lacking power, and we've got a serious case of understeer. Unfortunately, it doesn't get any better from there, as we lethargically limp behind the rest of the pack, slowly falling further and further behind, until we eventually finish a full 11 seconds behind the lead. This did not go well. Now, if you haven't clicked, the worst part about this situation is that we've got no money left to upgrade this car. So we've got to subject ourselves to failure over and over until we save up enough money to purchase some. The number we're trying to hit is 5,000 credits. At which point, we shoot on over to the shop and purchase some nitrous, bumping up the power enough to make this race a piece of cake. And what a difference the nitrous makes, as now our car is competitive, weaving through the traffic as it makes its way towards the lead, until we eventually finish the race in second place. But I know that the Lightweight Cup is an easier event, and if you win, it has a better payout. This car, being so light, is eligible. A lot of the tracks in the Lightweight Cup weren't actually that difficult to win in this car, but this track right here, well, that was a whole different beast. Due to its technical nature, was so difficult to win, it could have also had its own failure counter attached to it. It's not till halfway through the race that we finally make it into a podium spot. But we know from past experience that if that cappuccino in second makes it into first, well, then this race is over for us. As if he's not being held back by another car, then he's quicker than us. By the time the final lap comes around, all three of us are fighting for the same position. We managed to come out on top, and with a clean shot to the finish line, this race is ours. Finally completing our first event using economy tyres. We use all our prize money to add a giant turbo to the car, making it much easier to grind credits in the future. And after saving up a little bit more, we decide that it's time to add another car to our roster. Introducing the Toyota MR2, a car I anticipate being so difficult to control that if I can win in it, well, then I could win in anything. With our new car purchase complete, of course the first step will be handicapping it by downgrading to those atrocious economy tyres, using the remaining money to try and compensate for this by adding a racing computer chip and knocking off a bit of the car's weight. Okay, upgrades complete, Sunday Cup, here we come. The first thing we notice is that the car's a little tail happy. I kind of feared this would be the case, but it is showing that brute power is paving a way to victory as we finally complete the Sunday Cup, claiming a small amount of cash. And with that, we're 2 championships complete. Next up is the Mid-Engine Championship. And if I'm being honest, things are not going as well as I'd like. Our little MR2 is constantly falling further and further behind. I'm pushing as hard as I can to keep up, and that causes mistakes. Mistakes that mean I need to push even harder, in what becomes a truly vicious cycle. Eventually, we have to realize that at this point, we can't win this race, as we come across the finish line more than 30 seconds behind. Right, we need to focus on these two cars. So, a bit of grinding later, and they are fully upgraded, adding one, hopefully game-changing, feature. Downforce. Alright, mid-engine championship, take 2, Winty. Yes, here we go. Winning this race is now looking a lot more plausible. We're already fighting for first place, and it's all thanks to those upgrades. And not just the power and downforce, but also adding the LSD and turning the traction control to 1, helping us retain that grip. Now this car is very capable. At this point, the main thing holding it back is the driver. Mid-engine championship complete. Now, we have one more championship that our current cars are eligible for. The 4-wheel drive cup. And I'm so incredibly curious to find out if our Daihatsu Move can hold its ground here. This championship is also a very important test for me, as I'm trying to figure out whether 4-wheel drives have an advantage with grip when applying more power on these tyres. The Daihatsu Move, probably not the best test case for power, but it's all I've got. And so far, it's doing well, cleaning up the entire championship. And with that, the 4-wheel drive championship is complete. But much like real life, my disposable income is running low. So it's time to head over to everybody's early game money grind and win us some valuable prize cars. Ah yes, Toyota Rally Raid car. Prepare to become credits. Now it's time for us to go on the hunt for a brand new car. And we're going to be fancy, deciding to pick ourselves up a brand new RX-7. This is going to be our rear-wheel drive car. And we're picking it because through past experience, we know that it has spectacular handling. And we're hoping that that can counteract some of the bad grip that these tyres provide. Okay, that may not have been the best first impression of the car. But trust me, this is an amazing vehicle. Sure, it's got a little bit of oversteer, but the actual cornering speed is really high. And when you combine that with the power of the RX-7, this entire rear-wheel drive championship was a piece of cake. So without any hassle, we can cross that one off our list. It's time for sports trucks. And honestly, I'm not exactly sure how this one's going to go. These things are rear-wheel drive, they're high off the ground, and they've got a lot of weight sloshing around. But to my absolute surprise, they actually handle surprisingly well. So, yet again, we can count this as another easily completed event, and scratch that off the list. Leading us into an event that I have been thoroughly dreading, the front-wheel drive cup. We're not messing around with this one, we're heading straight into racing car territory. Because the way that front-wheel drives work is that they both turn and put down their power through the front wheels. When you're applying that power, the weight shifts to the back of the car, meaning you have less traction. And since we don't have traction to begin with, well, you can probably see where the problem lies. As an example, we're in 4th gear, yet the wheels are still spinning. I'm so grateful that this is the one and only time that we're going to need to use this type of car, as I don't believe this car is capable of being competitive in any event other than the one that we are currently in. And by the time this race comes to an end, I am so glad to just dump this thing back in the garage. However, it must be said that it did bring us victory in the front-wheel drive cup. At this point, we're down to the last event in the beginner series, and we need a convertible. For that, we've decided to go with an MX-5, as they're known for being lightweight, low to the ground, and handle like a go-kart. As our big heavy truck was surprisingly good at handling, It's going to be interesting to see how the other side of that scale works. The MX-5 easily manages to hold its own at this event, managing to have quite a high cornering speed. The only downside with it is that it had the tendency to oversteer, causing the traction control to cut in and rip power away from me, meaning we'd come out of the corners with less speed than I would like. But that didn't prevent us from finally completing every beginner event. On paper, this looks like we've made good progress, but I'm gonna have to remind you, the beginner events are basically tutorials to teach you how different types of cars work. The real challenges begin now in the professional series. As these new challenges will definitely bring harder races, I'm convinced that we need a new car. Or at least, that's what I thought at the time, when I went in search of a Skyline. A process that took me longer than I'd like to admit, before I finally settled on this one. And after all that spent timing, you know what I found? The RX-7 still lapped quicker. So after all this money spent, the Skyline went to the garage. If that was the outcome for the Skyline, why am I showing you this? Well, it may turn out that later on, it finds its purpose. For now, however, we're entering the Clubman Cup in our trusted RX-7. We're planning to use this race to gauge just how far we can get through the professional series. If we can't pull off a win in this RX-7, then we're going to have to step up to a race car to win it. And unfortunately, there's no performance boost after race cars. The sooner we rely on them to win, then the earlier it is that we're going to hit our limit when trying to complete even more difficult races. Thankfully, the RX-7 does incredibly well and wins the Clubman Cup so easily, we have confidence to take it into the Turbo Cup. At this level of competition, some of the weaknesses that come with using economy tyres are really starting to become clear. On this track, sure, once we get going, things are great because it's all high speed and our downforce can carry us through the lack of traction, if not somewhat loosely. But any low speed section where we can't build enough downforce, then we are really starting to struggle. We also need to be quite delicate with the cars. Oh, we don't want to hit the pit wall again, but avoiding it brings its own sort of problems. And now, I'm out of control. Thankfully, we hold on just long enough to cross that finish line and claim victory, taking a solid hit as a reward in our completion of the Turbo Cup. You know, I think the next event we're going to try and tackle is going to be the Boxer Cup. So for that, we're heading over to the used car dealership to find ourselves a WRX, ending up finding only the wagon version. But it'll do. We're not heading straight to the Boxer Cup. We're going to make a slight detour, making our way over to the Subaru special events. And our reward is this beautiful touring car. Now I wanted to get this as a get out of jail free card, in case we came across a race that was only slightly out of reach of a production car's performance. For now, I'm interested in giving this car a test drive, and that's why we're here at Deep Forest Raceway, taking part in the Boxer Cup. And so far, things are looking pretty good. It's got a ton of power, and it doesn't seem to suffer from horrible oversteer. In fact, it turns out it's quite the opposite, and I'm having some severe problems with understeer, trying whatever I can to force this car into rotating. Ah, handbrake, where would it be without you? And by making good use of it throughout the second half of the lap, we managed to hold on to our third place position, focusing our efforts on advancing to the highest speed areas of the track. And as we move on to the final lap, our WRX manages to make its way into second place. And now, there's just one opponent to go. And right before the corner section, we make our move, briefly taking first place before overshooting the corner and being relegated back to second. Now with only corners left before the end of the race, we're in a tight spot and we focus all our efforts on just trying to stay close enough so that perhaps we'll have a sliver of chance to make a move coming down the start-finish straight. by the smallest of margins, we win the Boxer Cup. But after that stressful race, we need to unwind. So for that, we head over to the Compact Car Cup, using our Daihatsu for an easy win. Because my god, can that car move? Huh? Compact Car Cup complete. The remaining championships require some expensive cars. Now where are we going to find a large supply of credits? Now I'm sure I'll figure it out. Once our bank account has been topped up, we head over to the AC Cars showroom and purchase ourselves a 427. And after a few upgrades, we take it out for a nice relaxing drive. And with that, the World Classic Car Championship is complete. Now, we're straying into really difficult territory, the Tuning Car Cup. As the name implies, the cars are tuned. And not only that, they're now sporting racing tyres, making their cornering far superior to ours. We gotta make that jump. It's time for a racing car. This racing car. Alright, with this sort of a car, this should be a walk in the park. Turns out, it's really not. And we just spin our tyres as our opponents vanish off into the distance. We're gonna have to get strategic here. So, first things first, the trucks did well. So let's raise this car as high as it'll go. Also, we'll soften the rear springs, making it far easier for weight to be transferred back and really push those tyres onto the ground. In fact, let's add an extra 200 kg over those rear wheels. And of course, add some nitrous. Right, let's see if that made a difference. Yes, this acceleration is fantastic. Cornering's still shite though, but every time we get a straight, we can easily make up some ground. Of course, on the other side of that scale, every time there's a corner, we seem to lose ground. But we are managing to keep up with first place. And oh my god, I keep forgetting just how bad this traction is when entering a corner. As we come onto the final straight, if we're going to make a move anywhere, this is definitely the spot. But with the straight now coming to an end, we have to start braking well before the 200 meter mark, just so we can stop in time for the corner. And while we've got the lead, it only takes us overshooting a single corner. And once again, we're back into second, having to chase down first place all over again, pushing it through the corners as we try and stay as close as possible up until that final straight, where we can finally put our foot to the floor and unleash the full power of this car and cross the line for a win. I wish I could say that completes the Tuning Car Cup. Unfortunately, this championship also contains some more technical tracks, like Tsukuba here. I cannot complete this track without racing tyres. But, while I can't put racing tyres on my own car, perhaps I could use our opponents. Introducing the hugging technique. Hopefully this technique will give us the cornering speed we need, as we are intending to hug our way to victory. And so far, it looks to be working remarkably well. Come on S2000, bring it in. And with that, we've only got one more car to go. Come on, hugging time. Okay, granted, that was a bit aggressive, but with our car raised so high, going off-road, not that much of a problem. And we easily recover and shoot off to claim victory. At this point we can say, the Tuning Car Championship is complete. Now, one of the reasons that we chose this Mazda as our race car is because it's naturally aspirated. So that allows us to make incredibly short work of the NA Cup, and in doing so, we can cross that one off the list as well, leaving us only one more championship before we head into our final event. That event is the Supercar Festival, and unfortunately, they don't allow race cars. Now, since we're going up against supercars here, I figured we needed to choose the most powerful road car we could find, which is basically a detuned race car. So we spent the rest of our money on it, only to discover, like the last time we bought a Nissan, it just wasn't competitive. But with all the tuning techniques we've learnt through this playthrough, maybe it's time to bring back the Skyline and see if we can finally make that thing competitive. Okay Skyline, I'm going through a little bit of mixed feelings at the moment. On one hand, if you lose this race, it's okay. I honestly never expected to make it this far. But on the other side of that, we're only 2 championships away from victory here. And hopefully, you can get us down to 1. Our 4-wheel drive system has given us a fantastic start, launching us up into 2nd place, with 1 car in front and a bit of a buffer to the cars behind us. The chances of winning are looking pretty good. We even managed to take 1st place on the 1st lap. But a bit too much braking causes weight shift, and we slide our way back into 2nd. Thankfully, this track has an incredibly long start-finish straight, and the Skyline can make up so much time here. In fact, by the end of it, we're right back on the trail of 1st place. Now with 1st place being this close as we enter a corner section, well, we're just waiting for a chance to do some good old hugging. And with that, we easily take the lead. And as we turn onto the start-finish straight, and the power goes down, our lead dramatically increases, meaning this race turns out to be a walk in the park. And the Supercar Festival is complete, leaving one final event to go. The Gran Turismo World Series. Whew, here we go. We need to put in a bit of a disclaimer. I tried to win this championship. A lot. But the quality of our opposition, and the fact that they've all got racing tyres, means that no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't win. So, what do people do when faced with great adversity? That's right, cheat. Whether or not that will count as completing this challenge, I leave up to you. Alright Mazda, let's do this. With the techniques we've learned through the playthrough, we now have a car that accelerates faster than everyone and has a higher top speed. The problem is corners. And this is how we're solving that problem. Is it elegant? No. Is it good sportsmanship? Clearly not. Is it going to allow us to win? Maybe. But what it is going to do for sure is make a lot of my opponents very angry. As you can see, using this method, we're able to keep pace with the lead cars. Well, on most of the tracks. Don't even talk to me about the Hong Kong one, as that ended up being a total write-off, no matter what I tried. The other tracks, however, completely doable. We could easily keep pace, or be very slightly slower. But even when we were slower, that didn't really matter, because economy tyres have one final trick up their sleeves. The tyre life on them is remarkable, and we don't ever need to make a single pit stop. So while all the other cars make at least one, our little Mazda, like the Energizer Bunny, just keeps on going. And before you know it, the Gran Turismo World Championship is ours. So can you complete Gran Turismo on economy tyres? Kind of, if you don't care about sportsmanship. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing and please drop a like, as it helps inform YouTube that this is a video worth showing to other people. And with that, we'll see you next time. Bye!